All I know is war. All I know is shoot. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for ya. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you, yeah.
Took some time in the place, man, I just needed some space. All the pain show in my face and my heart starts to race. Band of brothers.
On podcast.
All right, I joke quite often about my attempted escapes from the psych ward. Idea of representing the military. Representing mental health in the morning. Again, just as I hit 9, 8. Hello, and welcome to the WarDawg Trail. This is episode 75, and I have a special individual with me today. He is an operator in every sense of the word, former Marine Infantry Rifleman with 3 tours in Iraq, current SWAT Officer. He is the one that is going to be able to help us have the discussion of infantry versus SWAT tactics. But before we bring him on, let's go over today's announcements. All right, be sure to visit my website, sergeantwardawgtv.com, as well as the Facebook page, YouTube channel, and on Instagram. Also, you can find me on X at Sergeant War. All right. Remember, I am a brand ambassador for Reaper Apparel Co. So you can use my code Sergeant WarDawg TV for 10% off your entire order, which you can see down in the ticker below. Next, Peace for Warriors. Peace for Warriors is a nonprofit organization that takes veterans out to volunteer around the world. I will be joining Peace for Warriors this coming March 2024 when they head to the Philippines to work on a school in a village just north of the Subic Bay. If you are a veteran struggling with purpose or a mission in your life, consider peaceforwarriors.org. All right, you remember I am a co-host on DV Radio. That's Dysfunctional Veterans Radio. We are live every Saturday night, beginning at 8 p.m. For the Barracks Talk podcast. So if you want to laugh like you did in the barracks, talk, joke, and hear individuals from all 4 branches discuss things the way we did back in the barracks, join us on DV Radio. My second podcast, Bullets, Blades, and Hooks, is about myself and another gentleman by the name of Jim Gunn, interviewing veteran nonprofit organizations that seek to get veterans into the outdoors. So whether that's hunting, camping, shooting, or fishing, Bullets, Blades, and Hooks interviews the nonprofits that are getting the job done and helping veterans to get outdoors. All right, I recently finished my book, The WarDawg Trail. I've submitted it to several publishers, so it is now on submission. This book highlights my 3 tours in Iraq as a U.S. Marine Infantry Rifleman. Well, as soon as I have a release date, I will let you know about it. Next, my nonprofit homeless camp for veterans, Camp Doghouse, can now be found at campdoghouse.org. Check us out so you can find out how we are trying to assist in the homeless veteran issue in Central Florida. All right, Sergeant WarDawg TV won 2 awards this year. The first was from Acquisition International magazine in the UK. We won Leading Veteran Welfare Outreach Nonprofit Organization. Second, we won an award from Corporate Livewire as the Veteran Support Nonprofit Organization of the Year. All right, for fans of SHOT Show, we are media members and we have media passes to attend this year's SHOT Show in Las Vegas, which will be held next month. So we will be out on the floor, on the showroom floor, bringing you brand new weapons, hunting gear, and just general outdoors gear live from SHOT Show. Also, we've been invited to the range day at SHOT Show. So we will be shooting brand new weapons from Glock, Radian Weapons, Horizon Firearms, Cadix Defense, and Mitchell Defense. All right. Next, we are media members of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the organization that runs SHOT Show and that owns SHOT Show. Next, we will soon be members of POMA, the Professional Outdoor Media Association, so that I can bring you quality outdoor content such as hunting, fishing, or shooting videos. For my predator hunters out there, if you love to go after coyotes or wild hogs at night, Ecotech has the Helion Plus Game Caller. Now, this game caller is sweeping the industry. It has an amazing variation of sounds available to help you get your target harvest. And finally, this show airs every single day on MBR Radio. That is Military Broadcast Radio from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. So you can download the MBR Radio app and hear this podcast or view the video podcast every day from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. All right. Now, without further ado, I bring to you the man of the hour. I bring to you former Marine Rifleman 0311 with 3 tours in Iraq, who was present for the very first day of the Iraq War and is now a current SWAT officer. I bring you Vic. Vic, welcome to the show, boss.
What's going on? So, first thing I got to say, man, is it's awesome to see different guys that I served with. And, you know, there's some guys I don't hear from in a long time, but I hear either I get contact, text message, phone call, social media. You know, that's one of the reasons I do keep Facebook, is to keep in contact with all the Marines I served with. But, man, some of our guys have done some amazing stuff, you know, from one who did an Appalachian Trail, the whole trail, right? There's a Marine right now in Idaho. He's starting his, speaking of your teaching about the hours and other, he's starting his own company to do hunting out in Idaho. There's a lot of us became cops. You got podcasts, you got your websites, you got your nonprofits, you got your awards, and then, you know, it's just kind of cool hearing from Marines you served with, and how time doesn't pass, right? How it'd be years, but you just pick up and have a natural conversation with them, just like back in the day, you know, which is 20 years since the invasion. 20 years.
20 years, bro.
Yeah. So over 20 years ago, we went and came back already from our first deployment. So if you think about it.
Yeah.
So
That's the truth, man. That's the truth.
Yeah, 2003. I was just telling you before the podcast started, it was, of all the Marines we served with, there's actually a few of us that actually was there from the beginning, and 3rd and 4th Marines. They got to the battalion when there was nobody there, and we just kept getting boot drop after boot drop after boot drop. New Marines coming in, and next thing you know, the new Marines, there was more new Marines than old and salty Marines there, right? So we were all going into the invasion of Iraq, and we were all, if you looked at the this versus old, we outnumbered them, right? So we were all in it, brand new, all about to enter war, and it was trial by fire, literally, right? You're going through, and then, man, did we learn, right? Did we learn, and it prepared us for our second deployment, which I don't know about you, but I thought that was the worst one compared to our third deployment. So I mean, the invasion was the invasion, but I say the second deployment was the hardest due to the insurgency, due to the way we had to fight compared to the combined arms that we truly had in the invasion, right? So at least that's my opinion on the way I always used it. So, and then you obviously know that Corporal Daniel Maya, who was killed in April 2004, is near and dear to my heart. In fact, my daughter is named Amaya. I've named her after Daniel.
Awesome.
So I got yeah. Did you know there's 3 Amayas that I know of out there, daughters that are out there. There's Oliveri, Swaim, and myself all have daughters that we named Amaya.
Awesome. I like that, man.
Yeah. So
damn, I like that.
I didn't know if you knew that.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, so you carry on the legacy through the name and the memory, and share that story, and she knows. She sees a picture of Daniel, so she knows where her name comes from. So she's carrying it forward. So it's kind of cool. I don't know if there's any Daniels out there, but I do know there's Mayas. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, man.
And obviously it helps me to share his story, and people were like, hey, how'd you get the name Amaya as opposed to Maya? There's a lot of Mayas, but Amaya is right. Yeah, so yeah, man, it's good to see you. It's good. I'm glad you reached out to me. I saw you interviewed Huang. I don't know if you knew Huang was he was a best man. He's not a best man. He was part of my wedding party when I got married 13 years ago.
Awesome.
So, yeah, because we spent a lot of time in the armory, and then
I remember. That was during the time when I happened to be training NCO because I was dealing with knee issues. So the 3 of us got pretty close, being in headquarters platoon for a while.
Yep. Yeah, so Huang went to my wedding, and then take with a lot of the guys. So, but it's been pretty cool seeing that. So, and here it's like a memory lane of my time in the Marine Corps with you. Again, going back to being brand new guy, 3-4 invasion, and then our second deployment insurgency, and then in Fallujah, the first operation into Fallujah, and then coming back for our third deployment back to Fallujah, right?
Yep.
So, and say about SWAT versus infantry tactics is what I will say before we even talk about that stuff is that a lot of the experiences that we went through in the war, and a lot of things I learned about tactics, about fighting, about way of thinking tactically, that is where I earned all that experience and the right to say, hey, I have something about this when I do a team or when I enter the police world. Because yes, there's similarities, there's a lot of differences, but there's some similarities. To be a tactical thinker, some people learn it, but there's some people that they'll never figure it out, right? Some people are just not capable. But luckily, I was able to use this and really develop and hone the way I think about things in the tactical environment, right? And I lived through it. So, right, I got to live through it. So that it, as one of the things I talk about when I teach is that I don't pretend to know everything, but I'm a student of experiences, not just mine, other people's experiences. And when I teach, is really based off the experiences of others, and we've learned through blood. If you think about it. So when I'm talking about the police world, and I'm not even talking about the military, when we teach tactics, there's a reason why we teach tactics is to do the best tech sound situation, least possibility of loss of life, or I would say this, to win. And how do we do a proper analysis of how to win is by looking at where we failed or where things gone wrong. So that's reviewing videos, that's reviewing tactics, that's reviewing things that have, and also when guys have won. Because it's not to say that every time someone's lost is we'll learn something. We've also learned from when people win, when I'm talking about when fighting, right, in combat.
Right.
So I go back to my point. We learn through blood, learn through the blood and sweat of others who before us, and we take their lessons and improve upon our ability to act in tactical environments and these situations. So I am very thankful, and the point I'm saying this talking about our Marine Corps time, is that I'm very thankful for my experiences in the Marine Corps, because it really helped form me to where I am now. And I'll add one more thing to that. It's like, I wish I knew what I know now back then. So it would have made us all much better, right? So, but, young man's game, but the knowledge we gain through age is extremely valuable. And if we could impart that wisdom and the experience and knowledge to our young selves, would be a force to reckon with. So, luckily we have our brute force and our youth just to bounce in and get in there, right?
Right.
I'll share this story with you. I went to a team. He was a Delta operator, and he retired and started teaching cops tactics. And he knew a bunch of us Marines, of course. And he related a story that he was in Ramadi in Iraq, and while he was in Ramadi, he was covert. He was healed, dressed covertly in with the populace, and an ID attack had happened further down the road on a convoy of Marines coming through. And he saw the Marines react to that ambush and contact with extreme prejudice and brute force. And he goes, I've never been more proud to be an American. The way that you Marines are definitely the blunt force trauma of the military. Like the way you came in and just handled that and it overcame that trying to kill you guys and ambush you guys was just amazing to watch. And at the same time, I was like, I need to get out of here. Because he's like, I need to get away because they're not going to know I'm not an American here because I'm not supposed to be in this space here. He goes, I just looked in awe at the Marines pushing through, that you guys are not surgery means. When you need to carve out something, you will grab an axe as opposed to a scalpel, cut it out. So it was cool. It was cool to hear that compliment because he was in Iraq around the same time we were there. So these were during different rules of engagements that came later, right? There were the police action that came later, and I would say post 2005, but like in 2003, 2004, 2003, right? Open warfare, not uniformed, combined arms, tanks, artillery, everything. Then you had 2004, which was the insurgency, right? They're mixing in with the crowds. They're mixing in with the populace. They look like your normal citizen, but they're not, right? And then you also had insurgents coming from different places in Iraq. Remember, it was we were finding guys.
Oh yeah,
that were from other countries.
Yeah, Syria, everywhere.
They were everywhere. They were coming specifically to to fight us. And I did not realize that until do you remember our interpreter? One of our interpreters that was attached to 3rd Platoon, that was from Iraq. I'm not going to say his name here because he's still over there, but I remember him. He was so good that when he started interpreting for us, like, and legitimate interpreting, because he was from Iraq. He's not from Iraq. He's clearly not from Iraq. He's speaking Arabic, but he is not from here. And he would immediately basically help us identify insurgents who were coming from other countries to fight us here when we took, prisoners, right? So that in 2004, it had dawned upon me like, oh wow, we're really fighting, and there's people coming to fight us. Because, unlike the invasion, it was very different. So, well, yeah, like you said, man, I served with you, did my 3 deployments. Was very fortunate with my Marine career, and I walked into an evasion as assistant squad leader. If you remember that. So I had Piaget, who became an officer later in his career, and I think he's still in as an officer. He was a squad leader. And my second deployments, I was the assistant squad leader for Daniel Maya. As we remember him, I took over for his side. I became a squad leader that way. And I do remember how much I liked the fact, and I would almost say hate, but I don't use the word hate anymore. The fact that I took over squad leader because someone else was killed for it. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't a squad leader to begin with. I had to take over for someone else who was killed. So I thought the burden of that, of carrying on with the mission and carrying on the responsibility for the guys after my own leader was killed, and now I was stepping into his shoes. So, and then it wasn't so much that I couldn't do it, is that I didn't feel right taking over his shoes, stepping into his boots, of that. Yeah. And then obviously with my 3rd deployment, picked up sergeant and was a squad leader again, and finished out. Remember, I was under Lieutenant Bradstreet, our Harvard grad. Very intelligent French. But sorry, Bradstreet, I gotta take me fun of you a little bit. But I remember he was that lieutenant. He would give a brief, and none of the PFCs would understand what the brief was about. Dude, accurate and such an intelligent individual, but he could not talk at a PFC level. He wasn't capable. You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah. I remember translating from. This is the joke that I would give to people, that I translate from him, because he's like, sir, they don't understand what you just said. We need to, Anyways, but I got out after that. I was encouraged to stay in. They tried to get me to stay in, because as a sergeant, they're like, hey, you have a bright future, staff sergeant, gunnery sergeant, all that. And I was like, nope, back to school. So I got out, gave school a try, and you know what? Realized really quick school wasn't for me. I don't know if it was up here or, different things. But I will say this. I met my wife in school, and then I got introduced to law enforcement while I was in school. So this kind of plays into my current job, right? I'm a cop. And I joined the Marine Corps Reserves. I was with a reserve unit out here where I live. And we went to a range, and at that range, there was a police chief. The police chief came up to me. He's like, hey, what are you doing, young man? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going back to school. I got out of the Marine Corps. I'm not sure what I want to do yet. Police, being a cop wasn't in my mind at the time. I just knew I wanted, and he introduced me to police work. He goes, hey, why don't you work for my department as a part-time police officer? I'm like, first of all, there's part-time cops? I thought it makes sense to me. Like, I think you're a cop, that's what you do. It's like, no, you can learn you can work part-time, you supplement others, and you can learn as you go on the job. And obviously I still have to go to academy, but man, I fell in love with it. That's how I got introduced to the police world, was working as a part-time cop. while I was trying to finish school. And then I met my wife. So then I decided school's not working out for me. I had a difficult transitioning back to school. So I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this cop thing for good. I think the idea of serving people was still very live in me, right? The idea of serving, so I just served the country. And the idea of service was very present. And becoming a cop was a very natural fit to that desire of continuing to serve. That makes sense?
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, so, and that's how it wasn't because I was still involved in that to serve. And I'm like, school's not for me. That's for me. That's not doing anything for anybody else. But being a cop is doing stuff for other people. I'm going to continue to do that. So, and I'm at home. I had just met my wife at the time we were dating. And then we eventually got married. And, then I started working full time. It was an apartment. It was like 22 officers, a population of 5,000. It was good. They did good to me, but I decided it wasn't for me, and I moved on to a big city. So I work for an agency that has over 1,500. I think we're hovering a little bit over 1,500 people in our police department. But that's when I got into SWAT. So I had a blessed career in that too, because when I got into the 1,500-man department, they had tried for SWAT. I graduated from Nikki, got off FTO, and then finished my probation year. They tried out for SWAT, which made me eligible. So I spent basically a year on patrol in the bigger department. I got on the SWAT team. So that's what I've been doing for the last 10 years.
Right.
We're a full-time team. And it's been a fun ride. It's been a wild ride. Now I have more experiences in the SWAT world than I do in the Marine Corps. Because, Marine Corps was my 4 years, right? And 3 deployments, yes, heavy, but I have more experiences with two in the SWAT world. So it's kind of interesting to join up those experiences together. But these experiences in the Marine Corps help me deal with these experiences in the police world. Because, it's still an aspect. Tactically still an aspect. Your own welfare is still an aspect. And caring for others and taking care of others and serving others and working with teammates and all that, just so there's a lot of bleed over and crossover from the Marine Corps world and the SWAT world. So, but at the end of the day, on my SWAT team, I go home at the end of the day. I go home to my family. I go home, I drive home, I get to my house, I sleep in my own bed. Unlike in the Marine Corps, there was none of that, right? If we're in deployment, we're in the field. There's no driving home. We had some married Marines, but man, sometimes they were stuck in the barracks just as long as us because they couldn't get home, right? Or released from their liberty. Some differences when it comes to that. So, and then the other thing, if you don't mind, if I talk about my company real quick. So,
of course, go ahead, man.
So, Beacon Training Group is what you're gonna like about this. 4 Marines. So it's 4 of us. We're all together, but we all come from different units. So I have my partner Jake Wick, Andrew Simonetti, and Craig Zellhard. They're all served in the Marine Corps. Craig got out on he was a machine gunner. Jake Witt, Air Wing. He serves as a police officer too. So does Craig. And my partner Andrew, he was actually what we call Marine Corps. I don't know what they call them at that Force Recon, but they changed their name to Raiders, I think. Was it?
Yeah.
So he's one of the first Marine Raiders at the time when they were changing over. So basically, he was part of the SOCOM community through the Marine Corps. So we got they brought me into their company called Beacon Training Group, and what we specialize in is training teachers. Response to active threat, to the active shooter. So where we came from is, so I've been teaching part of SWAT and part of my training. I've been teaching cops for a long time how to respond to active shooters. I teach them task force, bringing a fire in, immediate trauma care, stop the bleed stuff, tourniquets, stuff like that, right? But well, we realized, the four of us, that there was a missing components. We were teaching cops, we're teaching fire, we're teaching first responders how to react to this. But what about the people who are in that moment, that are the quote unquote victims of the active shooter? And they're like, they don't have to be victims. They can learn, and they can be given tools of how to react. And there's programs out there, we've heard you won't be mouthing or bashing another company, but there's other programs that we don't necessarily agree with. What we wanted to give people is empowerment to act. We kept hearing over and over teachers saying, I'm just supposed to hide in a corner, or just kind of sit here and just wait for the person to break in, or I feel like I'm just going to be a victim waiting for the cops to show up. I got tired of hearing that, right? So we came up with our program, which we call it, it's just our spin on it. It's Escape, Barricade, Resist, and Survive. So we teach the teachers how to escape the building or escape this crisis site, right? If they can't escape, then we teach them to how to truly barricade a room. What does it mean to barricade a room? It's not on doing killing people, right?
Yeah.
So we teach them, like, let's create barrier from happening, not able to escape where that's happening. And then we have this, like, okay, if you're not able to barricade, you're not able to resist, to escape, then we're going to teach you how to control that weapon, and we're going to give you the tools of understanding the basics of a rifle, basics of a pistol, basics of stuff that, what is a stovepipe, what is a malfunction, what do you do when you hear the magazine dropped to the floor? That buys you time, right? These minutes and milliseconds of time, but it gives you ability to react based on the sounds that you hear. And we also talk about using your senses, right? If you walk into a hallway and you don't see the shooter, but you smell cordite, you smell, or you can hear the sounds reverberating off the hallway, or you hear magazine falling into the hallway, you can barricade, or out of a window that's your floor. And then we do so besides the resist part, and what's kind of cool is we put our, the red man suit, the stuff that you can get. So we'll put one of our role players, our instructors, in the red shirts, pin them against the wall, and kind of give some knee strikes and elbow strikes in our classes. Which, it's amazing because you, for the most part, when we started classes, the teachers are like, it is a morbid topic, right? It is a topic, but by the time they get confronted by their person in the red man suit, man, they're into it. They are. I have had some of the oldest, and smallest teachers throw me against the wall and like fight. And yes, it's all controlled, but that's the program, And then the last, the Stop the Bleed program. So we teach them how to put tourniquets on, because we're like first responders, but you're responders. So if there's a person who's bleeding out right here, are you going to wait for a medic or a cop to come in? What's the cop's job to do in an active shooter when they first come in? It's to end the threat, right? So they're bypassing people who are injured because they need. Here's the thing: a cop is not going to come into an active shooter environment, just like you're not going to go into your kitchen with a leaking sink where the pipe is broken. You're not going to start mopping the floor, right? You're going to stop the floor first and then mop the floor, but you need to stop the flow. So that's what cops are doing. They're coming in to stop that flow, that threat, and then they'll do the follow-on stuff. So in the meantime, teachers are players in this event, and we're teaching them that while the cop is taking care of business and any threat, if you have someone that you can take care of now with a tourniquet, stopping the bleed, putting pressure, doing all sorts of life-saving techniques, you can do it. And that's what tools to do that. We teach them the knowledge and the tools, and then also that we sell the products, right? We sell the individual first aid kits, that go up in schools. So now we're pushing for schools, and you'll start seeing in schools now, because it's the world we live in now. So under a wall, it's not a first aid kit, because typically when you think of first aid kit, it's what? It's Motrin, a Band-Aid, a cold pack, right? Now they actually have legitimate trauma kits, you know, with tourniquets in there, with trauma shears, with chest seals, with you know, your bandages. So we sell that stuff, and we put it in a nice little package, and we put it up in the walls in the schools and classrooms. And from the, you know, because after a training, the administration usually is like, oh, we should get the equipment you just trust on them. I'm like, yeah, you should buy it from us. You should buy it from us reputable. You don't have to buy it from us, but we encourage you to buy it, to get it, because again, like an AED, and how many times is an AED used, and versus is in the worst case is that you need an AED, it's not there, right?
Same thing. Not there. Yeah.
Same thing. You need a tourniquet, but you don't have it, so it's better to have it, right? So that's what we encourage. So that's our, we do, you know, we do cop training, we do rapid deployment active shooter training, but a lot of it is going into the schools and small businesses and teaching them how to react to it. And that's been our bread and butter. Our busy month was like this August to September. We taught around 20 schools in a 2-month period. And I'm talking about classes with 15 to, we had one of our was filled at 100 participants. Not, I don't want to make an idea we're teaching kids. I mean our teachers, so participants.
Gotcha.
So one of our schools that we taught was 100 participants, and those were 100 teachers and staff. And it's exciting. It's exciting because what I love about this again is service, right? Because we're giving them a tools to win, giving them a winning mindset. So that's what I do with Beacon Training Group. So yeah. So
awesome, bro. Look, I can't put words to everything that you've said. It was so amazing here just to hear it all and to learn. I know I don't want to impinge on any of your time, so I know you.
Yeah, we got a little bit of time, so we're good. Yeah, I do. Because I know you wanted to ask about infantry and versus SWAT, so that's kind of, I'll give you, do you have anything specific, or you kind of want me to talk about in general, like the things that I've learned? So.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just talk in general what you've learned from being an infantry rifleman and a grunt to being an actual SWAT operator that had to use precision.
So I'll go back to my original story about the Delta. How he says, you know, we're not a surgical scalpel, right? The Marine Corps, we're blunt force trauma. We're that. What was that saying? Clubbing baby seals with a.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, right. So we're the mallet. You know, we're there's nothing. Grunts, you know, we brute force. If we couldn't get something we're those guys that if we can't get something to work, we hit it, right? So if the TV's not working, we're hitting it. You know, if the robot that we're using is broken, we're hitting it, because that's our answer to everything. They call us crayon eaters for a reason, right? Can't be that way as a cop, though. You can't. And the reason I go with it, so when I went to my first SWAT school, before I became a cop, I was invited to a SWAT school, one of the multi-jurisdictional teams where I live, and I was in a reserve unit, so I went as a Marine to the SWAT school. The one of the things they picked on me a lot was like, dude, it's like your gun cannot be living up here, because in the police world, we cannot be pointing our gun at every single person. And keep in mind, even in the Marine Corps, we're not going to point guns at each other, right? But in the environment that we're operating in, when we were clearing our rooms, we potentially treated everyone as a threat to us, right? So, you know, especially in Fallujah, right? Every building we went into after PSYOPs told, hey, leave the city. If you are staying, you're telling us you want to fight us.
Exactly.
So like, and that's a prime example. So when we went into, as we were clearing rooms and clearing houses, our gun was up, and we were automatically muzzling anybody we saw that was not a friendly, an American, right? And
Right.
because because if they have that, our reaction versus their action, they got us beat and shoot us, right? So the difference in the police world is 100% and justification, because if you're in a situation, you can't just point your weapon at someone that you're not doing that. That's still a use of force, right? We have a thing called the Constitution that we abide by, that we are dealing with American citizens. So I can't just go into well, first of all, I'll say this. If we're going to responding to a crisis or to someone's domicile, we're there for a reason. We're there for a reason. How many search on murder suspects? But even in that house, what? Probably family members, American citizens. They're still, even the murder suspect is in America, right? So I am justified to go into that who is potentially murdered someone else because with a weapon, and because the search warrant legal, just a judge, but I still have to be aware. I can't just go in like we did in the Marine Corps, right?
Right. Right.
Okay, I just made sure I'd stop talking because I saw I lost connection. You good?
Yep, we're good.
Okay. So my point is so just talk about muzzle discipline is extremely important. Even in an active shooter environment, right? I'm not sure my muzzle is pointing in a good direction, because in an active, who am I running across? I'm running across adults who are friendlies, teachers, and everything else. My gun cannot be up in a way that we operate it in Fallujah. It has to be muzzle discipline. My muzzle has to be down until I encounter, identify as someone who can cause great bodily harm or death to me or another person, right? Because they still have to abide by what is used force, right? So I'll give you an example. So in my time in SWAT, I've served as a sniper. I served as a shield. I worked the shield a lot. I learned that was actually, I stopped carrying a rifle into events because I became the main shield guy, a ballistic shield. So it was my pistol. By the way, I'll say this. When I joined the police world, I was a great rifleman, because that's what we were. I was a terrible pistol shooter.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yes.
Truly terrible. But I learned how to.
We learned.
We did. And I honed my skills, because at the end of the day, I became a ballistic shield officer. And the majority of my shooting was one-handed. And people would ask me, are you willing to take that one shot with a pistol behind a shield on a hostage target, to save the hostage at 25 yards? And they're like, yeah, I am confident in my abilities. Now, if you would have asked me when I first joined and became a cop, no. No, absolutely not. So we were great riflemen, but the pistol did not translate to the pistol. So that was something I had to work on. That's one of the difference too, because that became my primary means is handling the pistol, handling the handgun, because obviously little minute changes in the way you hold it or in the way you're sighting, the round could go all sorts of places, opposed to rifle where it's a lot easier, it's longer. You have, it's practically cheating. So anyways, the point is that I have to be aware of where my muzzle is being pointed at, right? And I have to be aware that I'm justified in pointing this thing that can potentially, kill someone. Am I in using force to that level, right? And even any tactic that we use, at the end of the day, not just lethal. I'm also talking about less lethal, because we have less lethal capabilities. We have impact rounds that out of less lethal launchers. They use kinetic energy and blunt force to try to stop someone causing harm to themselves or to someone else, right? Or we do use chemical munitions. We have OC, right, which is equivalent like pepper spray. So these are different things. So at the end of the day, in the SWAT world versus the infantry, is I have a lot. Try to do everything we can. Everything we can is to prevent loss of life, right? And not at the end of the day, our loss of life, but we have priorities of life. We have innocent. We have let's take a situation, right? The hostage, other innocents that may be present, cops, and then our suspects. We still have to provide care for our suspect when all this other stuff is worked through. And what I mean by that is that at the end of the day, we've taken care of a situation and suspect has been shot. We have a duty to care for that person, right? We still have to provide first aid to that person. Or even if we don't shoot him, we put him in custody. Now he's in our custody, or she is in our custody. We have a duty to care for that person, right? We're responsible for that person. And as government agents, we have responsibility to that person under the Constitution. So there's a lot of differences where in Iraq, man, we detained insurgents. If they're, remember hearing the term fighting age male and they had a weapon, period. You don't have to wait for them to point it. You don't have to wait for them to have that in their hand. If they're fighting age male in Fallujah and you just got rounds shot from you in that direction. Yeah. And there was a weapon right there. There was no waiting for quote unquote green light. By the way, green light doesn't exist in the police world. That's made up by the movies. Each individual officer decides on their capability to use force based on what they see in the totality of circumstances of what they're observing and the information they're receiving from other people, right? So there's no green light. So let's use that example. Fighting age male in Fallujah, and we just received rounds from a house, and there's guys running with AK-47s out the back door, and there's another fighting. Do we have to see the weapon to shoot them? It doesn't matter, right? This was war. We were shooting them because we know that they were just shooting at us. They were engaging in it. We're not letting them escape. In the police world, I'll give you an example where there was a call where I was in the role of a sniper, and the guy took off in a chase. He ended up running off the road, and he was armed with a rifle. He ended up 100 yards off the highway into a ditch, and he barricaded himself essentially in that car. And I remember I was in a sniper position about 100 yards away, and I had him in my scope, in my sights. And I remember my crosshairs were looking at him, seeing what he was doing, and he was moving stuff around in the car. I could see the rifle next to him, and the rifle was right there with him. And Fallujah, all day long, we would put rounds on target. Here, no one in further danger, right? He was barricaded. He was not escaping. He was not going anywhere else. There was no way that unless he actively started shooting from a rifle from the car out, but there was nothing that would say that I had reason to believe that he was going to cause continued immediate harm to somebody else. So I'm not justified in taking a shot at that moment. Now, if he picks up that rifle and started shooting out the back of the window to guys around the perimeter, yes, right? But I would have to wait for a continued action that would cause great bodily harm or death to someone else. See the difference?
Yeah, I got you.
Compared to the story of the military-aged males who just run out of house, and some have AK, some don't. We'd be engaging all of them. So the difference here in the police world, I need to ensure that when I use force, I am completely 100% justified in using that force. So that's an example of SWAT, just infantry in the Marine Corps. And again, maneuver warfare. There's such a thing as maneuver for SWAT world. We do try to gain an advantage of, getting a flanking position on someone. But in the Marine Corps, we're going to use recon by fire. Sometimes we use. You cannot use recon by fire. What's another thing? Suppressive fire. Now, there's such a thing as directed fire, and that is a tactic that can be used, but that is very specific to a situation. And you cannot endanger other people's lives with that, right? Where suppressive fire, we're going to suppress an area where we're getting shot from. And receiving shots, we're going to suppress that area. Can't do that. So that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, use individual action, meaning if my partner over there is using force, I still need to be able to. He may see something that I don't see, right? He's going to have a different angle that I don't see, and I may make a decision based on what I see, not on what he sees, unless he reliably can tell me that, like, hey, I see a gun, he's actively shooting, and then I can use that information. But absent of that information to act, I can't just shoot because that my partner shoots. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Where again, in the infantry, as we're moving through an Al Karma, or think about Akut, or we're moving through the Palm Grove, and my partner's engaged, his rounds are impacting, he's shooting for a reason. I don't care what in space because he's obviously shooting. So again, very different. So it's been kind of cool, and just learning the law and understanding what I can and can't do within the law, and protecting citizens, right? Protecting Americans, and then also going to people who are suspected of criminals. And I don't just mean a misdemeanor. I don't mean someone who stole a candy bar from a gas station. I'm talking about someone who decided to shoot up a car on the highway, someone who murdered someone, right? These are bad people that I'm going after, and or someone who is known to have used a weapon against other human being, citizen. And so these are the people I'm going after. But at the end of the day, we're not judge and jury, right? We're not executioners. We are bringing them to justice, and we're doing it as safe as possible. And in the news, people are like, oh, they used big bombs, or they used this grenade. Oh, you mean a flashbang? To distract them so we can go flee? Oh, a bomb? Oh, do you think we use energetic breaching because it was a door that we would be standing in front of and potentially get shot in front of if we don't use an energetic breaching? And at the end of the day, the text we use is to save lives. And I think people understand that. And they don't need to, in the sense that, way or it's not exactly what and the person that we're going after is going to, right? But time, the color of law, and we're studying it to mitigate death, killing someone, to bring someone to justice,
Right.
So they can be charged, or they can be held responsible for what they did, right? So, so they're different compared to force trauma or blunt force movements in the Corps. We're very strategic and always thinking solution through how to take someone to custody safely. Yes, our own, absolutely, because we don't want to give that person the ability to think about what they're going to do in response to us taking them into custody, right? So
right,
yeah. So yeah, so we need to go in our actions and be very surgical in that respect, and how we tackle each situation, and how we can do it safely for the officers, for the innocents, for the potential hostages, and at the end of the day, even for suspect, because we want to get them into handcuffs and take them to jail, basically, right?
Gotcha.
For what they did. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Whoa, man.
Yeah, we could dive more into it, but man, there's a lot to it. We could have a whole nother full conversation specifically on that, but that's kind of like my opinions and my experiences for the last 10 years of like really thinking through how we approach different operations, with different people involved. And not all of them are the same. Every operation is very different. So.
All right. I can't thank you enough. This has been a very, very great, deep, and eye-opening conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Vic, former Marine Infantry Rifleman with 3 tours in Iraq, current SWAT officer, explaining the details of being involved with infantry versus SWAT tactics. Vic, thank you. I appreciate it. I know you have other things you have to get to, so I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, bro. And it's always good to see you again, and to let the world know I served 3 tours in Iraq with him, and we're brothers for life. So thank you.
That is the truth. That is truth, and that's why when you reached out, I'm like, absolutely. It was not even a question.
All right.
All right, brother. Be safe.
All right.
Take care of yourself, and we'll probably talk again.
All right. You have a good one now, and thank you.
Real.
All right. This has been episode 75 of the WarDawg Trail. I told you we were going to have a great conversation, and we did. All right.
All I know is war. All I know is shoot. All I want is more, but I got some things to do. I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior. Got an emblem on my cover. And ask me what I did for ya. I put the trash deep down under. Yeah, I'm a dog of war. Hell's what I've been through. I'm a dog of war. I did it all for you. Yeah.